Hello and welcome to Slice of Piefer. I'm Dr. Piefer. We have a very special treat today. With me is Nic Glazer. He is a senior VP of marketing for Sports One Marketing, correct? And for David Meltzer Enterprises. Amazing guy. We've gotten to meet multiple times electronically, and then also in Las Vegas this past week, where he was essentially running the show, which was super awesome. Welcome, Nic.
Oh my goodness, it is a pleasure and an honor to be here. I think I can say this in a testament, and all of your listeners are going to agree with me. You had me at hello, my friend, in terms of just you've always pulled at the heartstrings and my heartstrings in terms of our personal connection. And it's a true honor to be here and serve your audience today.
Well, I appreciate having you. I wanted to just I was going to just maybe run through a little bit of your side of the Las Vegas because this is season 9 that you guys are recording,
Yeah.
right? Of Office Hours with David Meltzer. And how many of those seasons have you been the behind the scenes main man?
So it's a little bit of a loaded question. I've been with David since season number one. I had joined David in the heat of COVID, so May of 2020. I was currently at that point in time, I was a student at San Diego State University, and I had already been gifted what was the opportunity to have an internship with David and his crew. And then when COVID happened, right, I was kicked off campus. I had to move back to Michigan in my hometown because on-campus housing is no longer a thing when, you have to stay 6 feet from one another and so on and so forth. And so I made the very courageous decision that in May 14th, right before my internship started, I moved back to California. And I actually started a hybrid role in person and virtually with David and the team on May 18th of 2020. And so, starting then, I was a 90-day intern, then turned that into another 90 days. And then quickly, David had offered me the opportunity that, his plan was to hire me when I graduated. And so from there, it was pretty clear that I was definitely not only in the right sphere of influence in terms of who I was surrounding myself with, but also very blessed to take what is a personal passion of truly attaining, maintaining, and developing relationships and being somebody that can truly engineer value within those relationships, to be able to combine that with activity that then I was starting to be paid for, was something that was just a true blessing. And so I was serving as the assistant director of marketing and partnerships at the time, which really is the right hand man to the right hand man. Right. And so the Jake, who was my mentor, he was an incredible mentor, and we really worked hand in hand, Batman and Robin, from season number one, as it pertains to the curation and the coordination of all of our incredible partners, guests, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, millionaires, billionaires, executives, and entrepreneurs that we're blessed to have on the show.
And it was amazing to see because you were running and gunning and active the entire time, right? You were from minute one that I arrived until I'm sure, hours after I left, everyone left. It seemed like you were going. You had the lists of everybody who was moving places, and you were helping to coordinate. It was really, it reminded me actually a bit of the operating room because you were running the show. It was really, really cool to see. So,
Oh, I appreciate that. When it comes to that, I give a great testament to two different things. Number one, is the leadership that David has empowered me with, let alone even without him noticing in some examples. I think, can agree with me in the sense that great leadership also can come from just watching and witnessing, not necessarily from direction or specific guidance. And so from that aspect, not only has he curated what is one of the, if not just a true top to bottom world class team that I am so blessed to be a part of. But then, secondly, it really comes to something I've held near and dear to my heart since really building my career. And when I moved out to California from a very small town in Michigan, I moved out with the intention to build a life, not to live one, but to build one. And I believe there's a very intentional difference between those two things. And in alignment with that building, not just living, is I've always utilized this perspective that I get from Steve Jobs, and it has to do with playing the orchestra, not just a specific instrument. And so this goes back in time to, when Steve Jobs was developing Next. right? So he's sitting in the San Francisco Orchestra pit with Steve Wozniak, his fellow co-founder of Apple, and they're having a conversation. And Steve Wozniak tells Jobs, he goes, I read 10 to 15 times a day that you're a genius. Right. But I designed the board. And he goes down the list of all the incredible team members that made the iMac or made those Apple products successful. And he goes, ultimately, why do I read that you're the genius 15 times a day or more? And he goes, Steve Jobs then talking to Wozniak, he says, Steve, listen, you sit in your seat and you play your instrument to the best of your ability. You're the best in the world, and there's no one else I want in that seat other than you. But the difference between you and I is you play an instrument and I play the orchestra. And so, from that perspective, the second kudos not only goes to that mindset and that intentionality, but it also goes as a testament to the entire team and organization that we have. Because although it may look like, right, and not to downplay it, but yes, I am very active and I'm running around and I have a very good cadence into the heartbeat of who everybody is, what the value they bring to the table is, and of course, the value that they're looking to receive. So I can help engineer value. But then you also have, Mike Allen, who's our fearless CEO and is running everything under the hood in terms of the actual shoot itself. Right. Or you have Marissa, who runs our New York office, right? That from a business development and a hospitality standpoint, somebody that can truly sit down and curate those very deep intellectual conversations, not only to further develop the emotional attachment that we have with clients and partners, but also to generate even more opportunities that are impact driven that can all help us make a lot of money for the sake of helping a lot of people and having a lot of fun while we do it.
Absolutely. 100%. And for some folks out there who may not know what office hours with David Meltzer is, tell us a little bit about that, just so that we can make sure that we pump that up. And hopefully, obviously I'll be looking for myself on there in season. A lot of my,
Absolutely.
like, what were you doing in Vegas? Did you win a bunch of money or what happened? So tell us a little.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I know, but tell us from your side about the goals, the reach, where you see not only your role but David's role with office hours going as we keep moving into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So office hours was a concept that David actually started during COVID. So even before I had joined him, and he started it as what was a digital show. So just live streaming on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook and those three platforms. And really, he was servicing it as a great opportunity during COVID to produce new and engaging content while also being able to still have the business development aspect without the in-person experiences in terms of bringing in new friends to not only provide value to one another, but of course to our greater audience and community. And so within about a year or so of that digital show being live, David had started to develop a TV show that was through Apple, Amazon Fire, Roku TV, et cetera, et cetera. And it's called 2 Minute Drill, and it's the first pitch only competition. So think of it like a Shark Tank, except the judges aren't buying equity, and we have one winner per episode that walks away with cash and prizes. And so we were working with these various different, development networks and OTT streaming and so on and so forth. And, they had come to us and they said, listen, we really love, this 2 Minute Drill show that we're working on. Season one was a great success and we can't wait for season two next year. But we've been watching this concept of office hours that you have, and we want to understand, what is your goal with that? Right. And he explained his intention behind it and really where it got started. And they said, we would really love to try to take this to the next scale. Why don't we shoot a pilot and let's run this alongside 2 Minute Drill as another TV show? And so that's where the scaling started to come into play. And so we've officially branded Office Hours, especially the TV show, as the first late night entrepreneur talk show. So think of it like your Jimmy Kimmel or your Jimmy Fallon, leveraging all the biggest names in the world, the celebrities, athletes, entertainers, millionaires, billionaires, executives, and entrepreneurs. But everybody that comes on our show, the purpose of those conversations, I always use a great example like Cameron Diaz, great household name, very good friend of David's. And when she comes on the show, right, most people would expect, if it's that late night feel, oh, I have a new movie, go see it in theaters. I love my co-stars and directors. And that couldn't be more of the opposite, in the sense that when she comes on, it's, listen, I built a wine business. This is how I did it. This is how I got hands on with production, right? So it's really going through not just these incredible and eclectic guests from all across the world and their own personal handset, heart set, mindset, and true their spirit of excellence and playbook to success. But it's also really focusing in more so on their mindset and how they approach business and entrepreneurship as a whole. And even for some of these most notable names in the world, how do you handle crisis or critical business issues? And not just what is your philosophy, but what are those nuggets of gold that you have learned from your journey that now we can perpetuate to a much greater accessible audience? And so you can catch the show OTT streaming on Apple, Amazon Fire, Roku, and many other platforms. But one of the areas that we get the most love and fan favorites is through our great partnership with Reach TV, which Reach TV is all of the hotels and airports across the United States. So I know, Dr. Piefer, you do a little bit of travel as we do quite a bit of travel as well. And I encourage everybody that as you are traveling, whether it's, having a burger and a beer at the bar before you take off, or even just waiting in, the classic boarding line as you get ready to jump on your plane, pay a little bit of extra attention and intention to the screens that are positioned right by the gates and right at the bars, because that is where you're going to see season 9, of course, not only distributed, but of course, all across social media with our incredible partners like Dr. Jason Piefer.
Well, that is awesome, man. Very, very cool. I can tell you've done this a few times before, Nick.
Yeah, maybe once or twice. And again, it's a great testament to, when it comes to articulation, because being the young gun that I am, and I do have no problem illuminating, and I'm only 25 years old, and I can tell your audience one thing: I sure as hell don't know what I don't know. I got a lot to learn, and that's why I've always approached not just my career, but my life is to truly be a sponge. Right, is to attain and absorb as much as I possibly can. And especially, when it comes to like advice, for example, treat it like a handful of sand, right? Only let it fall through your hand and only hold on to the kernels that resonate with you. But nonetheless, it is something that the greatest way that somebody can get better at anything, whether it's, saving lives like you do in the operating room, or whether it's helping facilitate opportunities, not just for David and our team, but for all of our partners, is, for me, I'm somebody that takes a great amount of pride in what is practicing. Right. Because ultimately, people ask David all day long, I want to get better at sleeping. I want to get better at speaking. I want to get better at coaching, whatever it is. Right. If you want to get better at it, what do you got to do? You got to practice. Right. And so, David, God bless him, he has blessed me with some of the greatest opportunities to really, take what is some of this natural, and I mean it in a humble way, but the natural charisma and ability to articulate value and be able to practice that all across the world, whether it's serving as, a main moderator and co-host with him on, some of his trainings that he does, whether it's being blessed to be able to sit in as a co-host on his TV show, which, I have even my own episode coming out in season number 9 that I'm stoked for, or, even whether it's through David and I, we host our own podcast together called the Well-Oiled Machine Podcast, where we pick a day in our calendar and we depict the subtleties of success and the way that we utilize the man-made construct of time to maximize our productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. So I encourage everybody within your audience to take a step back, and whatever it is that may be challenging you right now, or as we head into 2026, something that you may want to develop within you or take to the next level, lower the bar and understand and to surrender to the notion and the concept that all it takes is consistent every day, persistent without quit, practice in the pursuit of your potential.
Yeah, no doubt. I love it. I love that. I love just the message is amazing. And I think that idea that, especially with you and with David, but I could see it with you because service is such a high priority, right? Helping
Yep.
others. And that's something that as a lot of folks in medicine, even folks in business may not get to see that. Like,
Yeah.
there's competitive businesses. I mean, obviously the world of media is competitive, whether you're on social media, whether you're trying to promote TV shows, it's a competitive place. But I felt like that was really a very pervasive while I was there, was that desire for really everybody, the guests that I met, the hosts, the panelists who were there, everyone who was working behind the scenes, was just, let's help each other, right? And I thought that was really,
Mhm.
really cool. Serving others, that's what it was all about. And I felt like that was just a great foundation And I think that if you can found what you're doing in 2026, like you said, lowering that bar, but acting towards serving others and willing their good, loving the people that are around you, like that's a super,
Yep.
super great place just to start, right? To just love those people and to love the people you're around. I think that's super cool.
A
And I,
thousand percent. And one of the things that's really beautiful about, and I give, David and our entire team a great, fortitude of respect for this aspect, and especially David, because, obviously it really is his community, is what he's built is this very unique aggregate of people that approach a community in terms of how they can engage with the exact same mindset, which is to see how we can help one another directly. And if it's not the right fit, or whether we can help one another directly or not, also make sure we turn to our networks and say, who do I know that may be able to help you, or you may be able to help them? Let's
right.
share the abundance with everybody, because we're all blessed with abundance at the end of the day, right?
No,
And I think, having you be able to come and join us in Las Vegas, it's been incredible working with you. But what I was most excited for, to be honest with you, it wasn't just the genuine, over the top, and by far best dressed outfits that you brought to the table, which everybody has to stay tuned for. It wasn't just that. It wasn't just seeing you on camera, or even seeing the way that when you and David sit down, he's able to truly extract those nuggets of goodness from you on a different level, right? What I was most excited for was for you to truly experience our community in person, because it's an area that we take great pride in. And we've even had, various different opportunities where, like, for example, David, he had to leave, like one of our masterminds early to go to his son's football game because his family, right, being his top priority outside of his health, right? And everybody is commending him and literally clapping him out, as then it leaves, myself and, fellow team members to facilitate the rest of that afternoon, right? And what's so beautiful about it, and to the testament of the community, is how the value doesn't stop when David exits that room, right?
right.
Everybody commands him for sticking to his non-negotiables and his top priorities, while also saying, my goodness, what a great opportunity to make ourselves self-sufficient in terms of making sure this value keeps going, right? So it's that
Right.
mindset that really does differentiate the community that we've built from many others. And to the testament of, this aspect of kindness, let alone abundance, there's three main things that, I hold very near and dear to my heart as, someone that aspires and does his best to live life as a good man, not just a nice guy. And the way that I differentiate those two things is, a nice guy is somebody that can get along, right? They can get along with just about anybody in any situation. And unfortunately, sometimes they can be a chameleon in the sense that they can play a part for somebody, in the sense that they may have a little bit, a part of them that's too much of a pleaser. And I used to live in this world, absolutely. But now more so, I've gotten back to what is my true core values of being that good man that is very clear on his morals, ethics, values, and no matter the circumstances around him, will not compromise that in order to fit a certain situation, a circumstance, right? But the three main things that in alignment with this community and in this topic that I really do hold near and dear to my heart, and I'm very glad that you were able to feel this through our interaction together, is number one, to be kind. I think no matter where you live in our world, let alone our country, I think anybody and everybody can agree, our world can use more kindness. That is absolutely for certain. Each and every day, whether you are in the operating room, whether you're having to work at home, in the office, whatever it may be, we can always use more kindness. And I encourage and I push myself to make sure that each and every day I am not only intentional and attentional about that, but I aim to serve in a way that I do a kind deed for somebody that either may not be expecting it, or that I may not even know, right? So kindness is that number one North Star of leading factor. Number two, and as I venture into 2026, I think I'm actually going to be rebranding myself to what is a CVO, which stands for Chief Value Officer. And the reason is because my number two is, in any circumstance, my goal is to not just create, but to truly engineer value. Because at the end of the day, whether it be personally or whether it be in the context of activity I get paid for, right? Ultimately, I want to walk into any circumstance and not just engineer that value, but ensure that no matter which parties are involved and how big or how small the scale is, that everybody is walking away with what is mutual benefit. And then that third and final is a great concept that I actually have absorbed, being the sponge that I am, from the great Inky Johnson. And he talks about the first time that he ever went on a flight. It was for a showcase football game while he was in high school. And I have, since I actually, how people, when they board a plane, they'll, tap the side of the plane, like the Southwest sign or whatever. This is my version of that. So in any airplane restroom, there's a sign within there that says, please wipe the countertop and leave it better than you found it. And it's that same exact ideology that I apply to my life and any circumstance that I'm blessed with. That if I
Yeah,
can lead with number one, being kind, number two, engineering what is mutually beneficial value, and then third and finally, making sure that whether it was a random person you held a door open for or a grandiose partnership and business relationship like what we have, right? Let alone a personal friendship, I'm always going to do everything within my power to be kind, engineer value, and leave it better than I found it.
absolutely. And all of those things are willing the good, right? That's the definition of love, willing the good of the
Yep,
other person. I love that kindness, engineering value, and then leaving things better is, I mean, that's a beautiful foundation. It's a foundation that's great for 2026, great for anybody who's entering 2026. One of the things
absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about, maybe a little bit of a challenge, maybe not the challenge, but what are some of the big challenging things? Because I live in a world where it's high stakes and high pressure a lot of the time,
Yeah.
not but a lot of the time. But what are the big challenges for what you're doing right now, becoming or rebranding as a chief value officer? But what do you see as your biggest challenges coming into 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of the challenges that anybody is facing, to be quite frank with you, are all created, let alone they primarily live in the most valuable real estate that any of us will ever own, and that's the 6 inches between our ears. Right.
Yep.
And so the number one thing that I always suggest is, when you're going through some type of challenge, right? One of the first things that you want to do is you want to stop because normally when you're having a challenge, you're in some type of fear or ego-based consciousness. And the only true reaction that you want to have to that fear is stopping so that you don't continue in the wrong trajectory or create momentum of what is the aggregate of negative behavior versus positive behavior, heading towards a trajectory where you want to be, leading towards even better. Now, with that said, if you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at will change. So, always one of the first things that I do when I have any type of circumstance or challenge that is coming my way is I tap into my perspective and make sure that I have the attitude of gratitude for one, right? But then I also look at a problem as not this overarching mountain that I can't climb, but more so as I need to find the path for the river in terms of the solution. And that's something that for me personally, I get great excitement out of is finding those solutions and being a problem solver. But it really does start with what is the mindset and the practicality of the way that we approach it and the way that we see the problem or the circumstance itself. Now, number two, one of the greatest things that I am still practicing. Now, I say that as I host a podcast with David on this specific topic, but it is utilizing the man-made construct of time and especially utilizing that in alignment with my own personal non-negotiables. I believe, and I have been empowered through the mentorship with David and the practice and the hard work that I've put in to bring it to fruition. I'm somebody that I'm addicted to refining what is my own habit machine, without a doubt. And not that I wouldn't say most humans are, but I am definitely a creature of habit, to say the least. And so for me, where I say that this is a challenge is more so in the sense of number one, having to surrender to the fact that it is all a practice. And that is the only way that you're going to get better. Right. We all want everything to happen very, very quickly. Right. We want to go to the gym on January 1st and by January 14th have a six pack and be jacked. And that's not going to happen. Right.
Uh, I'm
Because
hoping, keeping my fingers crossed for that because it's
but it's something that, right? It's that aggregate. Yeah, it's the aggregate of positive behavior, but it's also understanding that things happen very slowly and then all of a sudden, right?
yeah,
In the sense that it's almost having the not just the courage, but the humility to understand that A, it is all a practice, and B, surrendering to that notion, but then C, staying consistent no matter what in that practice so that the aggregate positive behavior has time to catch up to itself and create the doubling effect. So then you start to see the results. So
Right.
those are some of the things that I'm really focused in on going into 2026, but also more on a critical business issue standpoint, where I am most focused. And I would say it's two main realms. Number one, it is always the continuous focus of continuing to attain, maintain, and develop the right relationships. Now, what I mean by that is, David has built, again, an incredible community, organization, and incredible opportunities, right? And with that said, I think we all know David has a wait list for his one-on-one private clients or for a lot of our opportunities simply because of the abundance we're blessed with in terms of how many people want them. Right. But the two main things that I always look for in these relationships are number one, the values in which the person is operating off of. But then number two is the value that they bring to the table and making sure that, again, I have that engineer hat on to make sure that we're checking both boxes in terms of being compatible on the value standpoint, but then being mutually beneficial on the value standpoint. And that is something that, plain and simply, experience is always going to sharpen your tool and sharpen your knife in that aspect, right? So that's always a challenge every single day in terms of being able to not just go through those three stages of attaining, maintaining, and developing, but also being a quick learner in the aspect of as you go through trusting and vetting, what are some of the different subtleties that I can look for to do it even more effectively, efficiently, and ultimately producing the highest statistical success? So that is
Yeah.
one thing on the critical business issue side. And then the last would be really taking a little bit of a page out of the book or the chapter of what is less is more. And what I mean by that is, sure, are you still going to see us in over 200 cities next year? You bet your butt you will be. But nonetheless, right, it is ensuring that we're being even more intentional with our time in terms of a little bit of minimum input, maximum output as it pertains to that equation, right? And what I
Right.
mean minimum input, maximum output, I don't mean in terms of just revenue generating opportunities. I mean in terms of impact, right? We want to use those minutes as best as we possibly can. So, for example, there's a great rule that I've learned, and it's the 1,000 minute rule. So, if you
Hmm.
look at any given day, right, if you take 60 minutes times that by 24, it's 1,440 minutes in any given
Yep.
day. So, if you take out what is seven and a third of that,
Yep.
or 7 1/3 hours, which is that brings you to 1,000 minutes left, and we call that our sleep, right? So let's say that you have 1,000 minutes in every given day, right? We want to invest, whether it's 1 minute and $1 of that thousand, or 5 minutes or $5 of that thousand, as intentionally as we possibly can to more so make sure that we are making a lot of money for the sake of helping people and having fun while we do it. Right. And
Right.
we've had opportunities in the past where not that by any means it was a waste or it was a misinvested opportunity, but we had simply learned more subtleties of success and lessons through those that then allow us to realign, adjust, and then take action utilizing the AAA strategy to put us in an even better position to maximize our impact.
Absolutely. It reminds me a lot of what you're describing. So you guys have made it to a point. Have you heard the analogy of the ice cube or the boiling pot of water? Have you heard this before?
Tell me a little bit more. I got to learn
So,
from the doctor here.
oh, right. So like if you have an ice cube sitting in a room that's 20 degrees Fahrenheit, right?
Hmm.
The ice cube is just a sitting frozen piece of ice.
Yep.
And if you put in energy and you put in energy and you raise the temperature of the room to 24 degrees and you look at the cube of ice, what does it look like? No change, right?
Yep.
It's 24 degrees, but from the outside, it looks exactly the same. Same thing with the pot of
Yep.
water. You increase the heat of the water, you've put in all of this energy, and you look at yourself and you say, hey, I'm no different than I was. But the reality is that there's value in that energy and that effort that you put in. And then eventually, when you hit that 32 degrees, when you're 30 degrees, you still look the same. You're like, man, I've put in so much effort. I've increased the temperature and I've increased everything up. And now you look at me and I look exactly the same.
Hmm.
But when you get to 32.1, the ice starts melting, right? And
Yep.
things start, and it sounds, I mean, you guys obviously, the ice is melting and you're looking at ways to efficiently keep the ice melting at an appropriate speed and at an appropriate value. But a lot of listeners, a lot of people who are here, they're like, man, I keep putting in the effort, but I'm not seeing anything change. The water's not boiling, the ice isn't melting yet. And so for those guys who are in that phase where they're investing energy, but they're not yet seeing the output, what kind of advice do you have for them? As I mean, at 25, you're already melting ice like crazy. What do you, what do you think you would tell to those folks who are working and making those efforts?
That's a great, great, great question. And, it brings a few things up for me. And I do want to prelude a little bit with the fact that, in that lesson of abundance and some of the challenges that we're working through, we're unbelievably blessed in the sense that year over the year for the past several years, when we take inventory of where things are at, opportunity wise, and where we're headed, the biggest problem that we've had is we are blessed with too much opportunity and we have to make sure to prioritize the right ones. Right. And so that's a little bit more of a clear way of articulating what I mean in terms of that correct prioritization, let alone with the right people. Now, with that said, what you're talking about is the exact same example, and David uses a little bit of a different vernacular, but it's the 1,000 step rule in the sense that, right, you get to what you believe is 99% of the way there, which really means that you're only 25% of the 1,000 steps, right? And most people quit when they get to that 99%, and only 1% go on, and they're at 250. Right. Then you complete what do you think is really the next 99%. And then you're only at 49%. And then another 99% quits, and so on and so forth until you get to that 1,000 steps. Right.
Right.
And ultimately, the piece of advice is I would give you two to three different things. First off, one of the things that I've always kept in my mindset, and it has to do with a spiritual faith of abundance in the sense of more than enough of everything for everyone. And that is if you take care of the work will take care of you.
Yeah.
It does not happen overnight. It absolutely does not. But I think if you even heighten your awareness, intentionality, and attentionality to that concept, you're going to start to understand each and every day, minutes and moments in which you're being shown those results. But currently, your awareness isn't heightened enough to be able to see them. Right. So, for example, it's the classic example of a doggy biscuit, right? In the sense that you don't recognize the doggy biscuits and the treats that you're being gifted, but they're more than there. You just have to heighten your awareness to them in terms of giving you the positive reinforcement that you need to be able to keep going. So that's one thing. Number two is understanding that concept of the aggregate of positive and negative behavior. The timetable, no matter what your product, service, solution, or business is never going to be the same for everyone. And quite apparently, it's never going to actually have a specific date on it, right? But it is something that, for example, we'll use a great example of both positive and negative behavior, right? Let's use the gym on the positive side. Again, as much as me and Dr. Piefer want to get in the gym and in 14 days have six packs and be ready to hit the beach, unfortunately, that's not how it works. Right? Typically, you start to see your results after somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks, because that's how long the compounding effect of that positive behavior takes. Right. Or on the negative side, you can take somebody, right, that's, a smoker of 45 years, right? And they seem to be in perfect health, right? And they may be rather slim, they're not overweight, you have no idea. But then eventually, as they hit their mid 40s or mid 50s, one day, unfortunately, they don't wake up.
Yeah.
And that's the aggregate of that negative behavior starting to take place. So ultimately, as long as you are very clear and have inventory of what is your own timing and your own risk tolerance as it pertains to the objectives and what you are building towards, as long as you can manage that and have faith in what is divine time, divine direction, and the aggregate of that positive behavior, it's just a matter of time until the results are going to start to reveal themselves for one, and you start to allow that behavior to compound against itself to ultimately take you towards a trajectory even better than you could have possibly imagined.
Yeah. I agree. And I think the cool thing, I mean, one of the things that Taylor, she's my PA, she's on vacation, so she's not here with us today. But she's always asked me, she's like, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? This podcast, is the juice worth the squeeze? This,
Hmm.
doing things, going and trying to do speaking things, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be worth the squeeze, but I just enjoy the squeeze. I enjoy doing the work. And that part,
Exactly.
if you enjoy that, if you enjoy the work, if you enjoy putting in the energy and you enjoy lifting other people up, then maybe you never find the juice, but does that mean that
100%.
wasted that you've had a wasted life because you went and tried to do great things? You tried to do great things for people, right? And so I think that's a key that I love about all the things you're talking about. Is just like it's a lot about perception. It's a lot about, man, if you just look at that piece of ice and you're just frustrated and you're like, man, nothing is happening. But if you look at all those sit-ups and push-ups that you did for these last 8 weeks and the relationships you made at the gym and how
Hmm.
ultimately you're going to get to feeling better and better and better, and you can look at your calendar and say, look, I went to the gym for 30 days in a row, right? And
Yep.
I still look like the same daggum piece of ice. But you want to know what? I did it, and I'm happy about it, and that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a good place to be, but it's all about that perception in my mind of understanding that the energy, there's value in that positive effort that you're making.
1,000%. For me, a few things come up there in the sense that, let's take a book or let's take a page out of the Mamba Mentality book, right? You have to love the process.
Right.
If you are attached to whatever destination that, you have perception of or you've set for yourself, etc., I can guarantee you, both through my own personal experience as well as all the incredible entrepreneurs and executives I've been blessed in a sphere of influence to be a part of, is they will all tell you, you'll get to the very end, you'll get to that destination, and you will feel nothing. In fact, more times than not, you are going to feel more empty than you did when you even started the journey if you do not love the process. And that really leads me to part of a second point with that, which is you have to learn to like or love what you don't like or love about what you love. So for example, right, let's say that, you're a startup, right, and you're a team of 4 people and you personally are tasked with marketing, sales, and finance, right? In that situation, you're probably going to be pretty jazzed up about the marketing and the sales aspect because they kind of run hand in hand. But let's say that you hate the finance, right? If you set a non-negotiable for yourself every single day, when we talk about our habit machine and human behavior of, I'm going to spend an hour to 2 hours every single day on what is the financial aspect of the business while I, pour the rest of the activity I get paid for into marketing and sales. That's fantastic. But you have to shift your perspective and start to practice learning to like or love the aspect of, let's say you hate Excel sheets or doing P&Ls or whatever it may be. If you can shift your chemical brain wavelengths to understand and have gratitude for what you don't like or love about what you love, that will ultimately give you all the confidence and comfortability in the world to make sure that you are enjoying the pursuit and not just holding on to the attachment of that destination.
Yeah. I had a really cool opportunity to talk with a bunch of medical students who were first and second year med students. So a little bit younger than you are, maybe in their 21 to or 23, 24. They had just
Hmm.
graduated for the most part. And they're in the thick of it, right? They're in the weeds of biochemistry,
Yep.
heavy hard sciences, and there's not even a picture of a human being that you're going to be thinking about doing an exam on or ordering labs or treating or doing surgery. Like those things are so far away from that heavy biochemistry work that they're doing, and I
Yep.
mean there's in physiology and other things happening, but man, you're just sitting there like, whew, this is crazy. And part of it is that same thing. You've got to learn to love that process and be able to see to the end to where you're going to be, but also foundationally understand that where you are is important, and it's greatly important to who you're going to be able to serve in the future. But that same work ethic when things are hard and when things aren't your favorite and when you've got to make tough decisions and lead difficult teams, all of those different things happen as you can as a physician, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, wherever you are. You've got to be able to manage those high pressure situations, and the difficult ones that you don't like, right? That are not
A
that.
1,000%. Like
Yeah.
a really good example that is just coming through me within this moment is while I was in kind of the first 90 days and the second 90 days of, when I was an unpaid intern with David and the team, what I was doing was I had, I considered what I was doing with David full time because that was my full time priority. Right. So that's where I had the most intention, attention, and focus. That's where I wanted to be the most. right? Then simultaneously, I was doing 8 to 9 classes a semester of business school to fast track and graduate a semester early. I was driving and doing Uber Eats in the mornings and at night times to be able to help make ends meet and so on and so forth. And I even picked up a part-time job as a essentially a I worked at one of the housing facilities on campus, right? Now, that job specifically was something that, for a lot of reasons, I did not love and I was not enjoying the journey. But where I shift my perspective, because what I was doing was I was using the man made construct of time and math. And I was saying, okay, so in the 24 hours that I'm given, I need about 6 to 7 hours of sleep, right? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to book my time working this job in the hours where there's the lowest amount of activity. So then I can reverse engineer it to do the stuff that I actually want to do. Right.
Yep.
So at the time, I'm not getting paid for my work with DME. Obviously, I'm getting more than compensated in terms of experience and value from that perspective, but monetary wise, I'm not. Right. So what did I do? I literally reverse engineered it so that my 9 to midnight, midnight to 3 or 3 to 6 a.m. shifts that I was taking, right? I was just reverse engineering it to get paid for the activity that I wanted to get paid for, but wasn't getting paid for. Because I would go there during the dead hours of the night, nobody's coming through, and I'm sitting there doing work. So I reverse engineered it. So then I gave a whole nother set of perspective and gratitude towards that activity because then I was getting paid to do what I wanted to get paid to do. Right. And so that's a great example in terms of how not only we can shift our perspectives, but how you get that full circle enjoyment and fulfillment that you and I are talking about when you make sure and make and learn to love the aspects of what you don't like or love about what you love.
Right. I agree. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Now, tell me, where are you now? Are you in California? Have you?
Yes. Yeah, so I am in Southern California. So David and myself, and then our CEO and our president of the company, we are based here in Southern California. David's more in the Orange County area. Of course, we have our studio suite and training facility at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. And then I live about 35 or 40 minutes north of downtown San Diego in what I would like to call a picture perfect beach town called Carlsbad.
Nice, very nice. But you're going to get to go home for Christmas to home.
Yes, I'll be traveling home, so I'm taking a red eye on Sunday night to go be with friends and family and get surrounded with a little bit of extra holiday cheer with some snow on the ground, hopefully.
Yes, well. So this is the first Zoom slice of Piefer.
Oh,
So you're the our first Zoom. So we're gonna make Justin has guaranteed me we're gonna make it work. So that's good. And also be the first traveling pie because I heard we talked, your favorite pie is apple pie, but I
it
gotta make
is.
the same place. I don't want it to end up in California sitting on your I get a little picture from Uber and then the Uber Eats and it's like he's at home with family across the country. So I'm going to make sure that I get the dates from you so that I send it to the right place because I want to make sure that you guys have some pie at least for Christmas. So that'll be
Oh
fun.
my goodness. And this is for everybody listening, you guys all love Dr. Pfeiffer for a million and one reasons like I do, but this is the perfect testament to the sense that, what really has, and when I mentioned earlier that you had me at hello, right? Part of that is in terms of number one, the values that you bring to the table of who you are as a man and someone that I, in great regard, think is a phenomenal example of what it is to be a good man, not just to be a nice guy. So that is number one. Number two is the value in which you bring to the table, both as a human being as well as the lives that you're able to transform and to save, through the operating room side. But lastly, I think one of the things that really does attract me to you to a great deal is the heart of yours that you have. Like your heart is as big as the day is long in the sense that man, it extends and it is so abundant and through whether it's something as simple as making sure you're sending the pie to the right place so me and my family have something for Christmas as a thank you when the honor is all mine to even be asked to come on your show, It is just such a testament to who you are as a person. And I couldn't be more grateful, not just for the invitation, but of course, for our professional as well as the personal relationship that we continue to develop. So I genuinely, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity, for one. And number two, the only ask that I actually have is that, unfortunately, I think this holiday season is going to be spoken for both for myself as well as you. I know you got some great travels coming up. But with that said, is the next time we get together, we're going to have to share a slice of pie for together and make
There,
sure that we enjoy some pie. But also, when it comes time, I would love to make sure that you get on and come on as a guest to the Well Oiled Machine podcast with David and myself, because I think that would be a phenomenal episode to go through what is a totally different perspective of a calendar that's yours, even versus ours, and be able to talk about some of those subtleties of success. But also, I would love the opportunity when it does come at the right place at the right time. When I have my own podcast, I hope that you will bless me in terms of being a guest on mine as well.
100%, 100%. I will definitely do it. I get that. I get to tell people all the time, I get to just live a really cool life, right? Because I get to talk with you here in the podcast. Earlier today, I was operated on, reconstructed an ACL, was scoping knees. I think I was texting you on my way here. Hey, Nick, I think I thought I was going to be there at 4, but now it's 4:30 Central. But I get to live a really cool life. I've got an amazing family. I've got amazing friends, and I just feel very, very blessed to have what I have. And I think that the cool piece for me is to just get to share that a little bit with people. But I also just I'm a firm believer in finding great people. And Nick, you're a great, great person. You are an amazing person who takes great care of people. And not only are you taking great care of David, and I know he knows that, but you took great care of me in Vegas and all of everybody around. We could see just, I mean, like well-oiled machine is a beautiful is a beautiful name because that was what it was. The whole process was going. That was my first time to ever be in makeup, so that was interesting. My daughter, why are they having video of you getting makeup put on? And I was like, it was TV. I don't know.
It's awesome.
Look up. And I was like, I think you're going to stick that thing right into my eyeball. And she did not. Liz was very professional. And thanks. I sent her a message. I sent her a thank you message. So that was really cool too.
That's so kind.
But I want to, Nic Glazer, you are amazing. Thank you so much for everything. Thanks for coming on the show. I will get with you so we make sure that the pies are in the right place. Maybe I'll just send them to both places and then
Yeah, I will text you my actual date so we get it right. And if I can leave any last messages or words of wisdom with you and your audience, it would be twofolded. So number one, I want to invite everybody to reach out to me directly and get in touch at Nick. NIC, no K, just NIC underscore Glazer on Instagram, Nic.Glazer, just about on any platform. And then also you can reach out to me directly just via email, Nic, Nic, at dmeltzer.com. Whether it's anything more me personally related, whether it's getting in touch with, David and our entire organization, any way that truly I can be of service or we can be very intentional about engineering that value that I spoke about a little bit earlier. I welcome it all with open arms as we are all blessed with abundance. So please reach out to me if there is anything within that realm that we can do to further a conversation or strike a new one. And then secondly, kind of as the closer, I want to remind your audience of the three things, especially going into 2026, that I hold nearest and dearest to my heart every day. But I think especially when going into a new year, it's a great perspective to have, which is, as you go through all of your, operations, all of your activity you have planned, don't have planned, etc. We want to remember three things and effectuate three things to all of us that are, surrounding ourselves as well, which is number one, to show up and to be kind. Lead with kindness and that aspect of your heart. Number two is to not just create, but make sure that you are engineering value in any circumstance that you are blessed with, which ultimately will ensure that number three is a flying success and that you leave any person, circumstance, or opportunity even better than you found it. Dr. Jason Piefer, my friend, it is such a pleasure and a true honor to be here with you today. I cannot thank you and your audience enough, and I wish you nothing but a great trip ahead and the happiest of holidays.
absolutely.